Alright, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from Street Scores, and it's time to give y'all the November edition of crazy and shocking Washington football team stats, man. There's a lot going on. You'll be very surprised to hear some of these stats. I mean, some of these stats are like for real crazy. I didn't just put that in the title for no reason. I mean, it's Jonathan Allen, an all-pro defensive tackle, one of the best in the NFL. It's Terry Mclaurin, not only the most underrated wide receiver in the NFL, but also just one of the best, period, and much more. But before we dive into all of that, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get a notification immediately, and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. As always, check out the rest of the channel. I'm dropping videos at least once a day for the next week or two. Just so much content to get out to y'all. I keep telling y'all this, but I'm serious. Draft content, all kinds of stuff coming, so stay tuned for all of that, and there will be some exclusive content for channel members as well, so be on the lookout for all of that. And without further ado, let's get it. Alright, so first of all, according to PFF, Taylor Heinicke had a 68.5 overall grade. He had one big-time throw. He had 2 turnover-worthy plays, and he had a 90% adjusted completion percentage and a 7.4 ADOT. So what I get from that is that he was either throwing a completion or throwing something that should have been intercepted, but overall he had a really good game. But when you look at the stats and see that he threw no interceptions, it doesn't tell the full story, but still a great game from him, and arguably the best game he's ever played in the NFL, especially for us. I mean, it's to the point where even Ryan Clark said that if Taylor Heinicke played against Tampa Bay every game, this guy would go to the Hall of Fame. And he slick got a point. But speaking of grades, Washington's highest graded players from the win against the Buccaneers was Jonathan Allen with an 80.2 grade, Kendall Fuller with a 79.1, Casey Toohill filling in for Montez Sweat and Chase Young with a 78, Cornelius Lucas with a 75.7, filling in for rookie Samuel Cosmi. I mean, our offensive line depth is crazy. And Brandon Sheriff with a 75.6. Those are your top 5 graded players. I'm curious to see why exactly Kendall Fuller wasn't one of those guys. Because Kendall Fuller, every time I noticed him, was balling out. Maybe there was some mistakes he made on plays that he wasn't a factor in. Like maybe when a guy was not being thrown to, that he was covering, maybe he was leaving them up. I don't know. Again, I have to go back and look at the film and watch him play by play in full detail under a microscope to see. But it looked to me like Kendall Fuller was out there balling. I mean, to me, it looked like Jonathan Allen and Kendall Fuller are our best defensive players easily on the team right now. Speaking of Jonathan Allen, through 10 weeks of this NFL schedule, Jonathan Allen is 3rd in overall grade with a 90.1. Second in pass rush grade with a 91.1, 37 in total pressures, tied for 4th, and 2nd in pass rush win percentage with 20.8%. To me, that sounds like an all-pro season. 3rd in one category, 2nd in 2 of them, and tied for 4th in another. He's literally the best contract extension Washington has given out in a long time. Worth every penny and some. Also, after we beat the Buccaneers, that was our first time beating them since October 25th, 2015. Do you like that game? Of course, they didn't have Tom Brady back then, and their defense wasn't this stacked, but they were an underrated defense since back then as well. They had some guys on there. They just didn't have the complete roster that they have now. And now we are 12-10 against the Buccaneers, so we are winning that series throughout NFL history. Also, this is our first time beating Tom Brady since September 28th, 2003. And this is only the 2nd time we've ever beaten Tom Brady since he's been in the NFL, which is crazy. We also intercepted Brady 2 times in the first quarter, and it was the first time Brady has been intercepted twice in the first quarter of a game since December 23rd, 2012. And that game was complete turnover battle. Whoever could protect the ball the best was winning that game, period. That's just how that went. We got lucky. Taylor Heinicke's interceptions were dropped. Tom Brady's weren't. This is also the 2nd time this season that our defense has recorded more than 1 interception in 1 game. Also, the offense had a 39 minutes, 8-second time of possession, the most in a single game since October 30th, 2016 for this franchise. Also, the 19-play, 80-yard, 10-minute, 29-second fourth quarter touchdown drive that put the game away was the longest fourth quarter drive in Washington franchise history in terms of plays, with it being 19 plays since 2001. We recently had an 18-play first quarter drive in 2003, but that's it. And in terms of time of possession resulting in a touchdown, it was the longest in the NFL since 2001 until the 49ers went and ruined that immediately against the Rams on their first scoring drive Monday night, where they had 18 plays, 11 minutes, 3 seconds. So we had the longest drive in terms of time spent in the drive in the NFL since 2001 until the 49ers. I mean, we had it for like a little over 24 hours before the 49ers took it from us, but that's still dope to know. Also, Washington had multi-rushing touchdowns and a passing touchdown in a single game for the first time since November 26, 2020, which was the Thanksgiving game against Dallas, where, I mean, we just completely destroyed them. Also, the Washington defense held Tampa Bay to 273 total offensive yards, which is the fewest the defending Super Bowl champions have recorded this season and their fewest since November 23rd, 2020. Their 220 passing yards are the fewest the team has recorded since September 20th, 2020. Also, Washington holding Tampa Bay to 14 first downs is the fewest they've allowed since November 26, 2020. That Thanksgiving game where, I mean, we just destroyed Dallas. Offense, defense, everything was just perfect. That was just one of those games we'll never let go as Burgundy and Gold fans over Dallas. You got to hold on to that game forever because that game was just complete diddy bop. Also, Heinicke's 110.4 passer rating was his second highest as a starter this season and his highest since week 4 at Atlanta. It's the second highest passer rating by a Washington quarterback against Tampa Bay in franchise history. The highest passer rating ever recorded by a Washington quarterback against Tampa Bay was week 7 of 2015, where Kirk Cousins registered a passer rating of 124.7. The you like that game. Also, Antonio Gibson had 2 rushing touchdowns for the second time this season. It is the 4th time he has recorded multiple rushing touchdowns in a single game since he's been drafted here. His 4 multi-rushing touchdown games are the most through a player's first 23 games in franchise history. They are also the most through a player's first 2 seasons in Washington, period. Antonio Gibson's 14 receiving yards in that game also put him over the edge for having the most receiving yards by a Washington running back through his first 2 seasons in franchise history. That's with all of the injuries. That's with him splitting carries with J.D. McKissick and Jared Patterson now. And even last year, I mean, he wasn't even really starting until like a third of the way through the season. Until he got his pass blocking down, he was virtually unplayable on third downs last year. And then he was dealing with injuries the whole back end of last season. He's been dealing with injuries throughout this entire season. So that's very impressive. Also, Terry Mclaurin, with his 6 passes for 59 yards, has gotten him to a 2,600 career yard milestone. Also, watch out because DeAndre Carter has recorded a receiving touchdown in back-to-back games. And he returned 2 kicks for 47 yards, which is also really good. We really have a gem in DeAndre Carter. But going back to Terry McLaurin real quick, entering week 9 for our bye week, Terry McLaurin was leading the league in contested catches. And then he added another 1 or 2 against the Buccaneers. So I'm pretty sure he's still leading in that category. That is why he's easily the most underrated wide receiver in the NFL. You can definitely argue he's a top 5, at least top 10 wide receiver in the NFL, just overall, period. He's the best contested catch receiver in the NFL. He's one of the best yak receivers. He's one of the best route runners. And he's also one of the fastest. I mean, like, what can't Terry McLaurin do? And he plays in pain. This man is out here fighting all kinds of injuries and just toughing up and getting the job done. It's crazy. And then the quarterbacks he's had to deal with. I mean, it's between him and Allen Robinson that's had to deal with the worst situations as far as quarterbacks go. You could argue Terry McLaurin just because he's had the most throwing to him out of any potential top wide receiver since Terry McLaurin has hit the league. He's had to do the most with the least, easily. And again, I mean, if anything says it, it's the fact that he has the most contested catches in the NFL out of any receiver, period. Also, Bobby McCain got his 2nd interception on Sunday. William Jackson III recorded his 2nd interception of the season, his first since week 1 against the Chargers. I thought after that game we would see a lot more from him. Took him a while to get another one, and he missed the last 2 games, but still. But it's interesting to know that he already has 2 interceptions this season. We still have a lot of games left, and he only recorded 3 interceptions his entire first 4 seasons in the NFL. So that's crazy. Also, Jonathan Allen tallied a QB hit, his 20th on the season. He has passed Gerald McCoy for the 8th most QB hits by a defensive tackle within a player's first 5 seasons in the NFL. And he still has a lot of games left to play to potentially pass some more people. So is it a fair argument that Jonathan Allen is one of the 8th best defensive tackles to hit the NFL in a long time? Also, interestingly, Derek Forrest made his NFL debut. And also, if you didn't notice, Joey Sly made all 3 of his field goal kicks from 46, 29, and 28. And he made all of his 2 extra point kicks. Oh, another very interesting stat. Washington has attempted 21 fourth down conversions so far this year. That is the 3rd most in the NFL, behind only Detroit and Cleveland. In 2019, the year before Ron Rivera was hired, Washington only went for it 14 times the entire season. Again, we've already attempted 21, and we still have a lot of games left to go. Also, Jamin Davis, if you were wondering, and I got to go back and look at the film because it just didn't seem this bad, but Pro Football Focus gave him a 38.8 overall grade on 27 snaps. He had 0 defensive stops, and he allowed 4 catches on 5 targets for 47 yards. It didn't seem that bad, but I'm going to have to go back and look at the film. Also, I'm not sure if a lot of people know this, but Washington is at the very least top 7 in run defense and pass rush defense, according to Pro Football Focus and ESPN. Both of their charts, we're at the very minimum top 7 in all of those categories. So even though it doesn't seem like our defensive line has been as dominant and we're missing Montez Sweat and Chase Young for a long time, especially Chase Young, they've still been getting the job done. Also, our offensive line, according to ESPN, has the highest win rate in run blocking in the NFL, even with all of the injuries. Shout us out to our offensive line coach and the depth we have at offensive line. Because the fact that we're leading the NFL by a nice margin in run block win rate, even with all of the injuries that we have, it's crazy. And Pro Football Focus has us graded with like the 8th or 9th best run blocking offensive line in the NFL. But according to ESPN, we have the highest win rate. And then pass protection wise, Pro Football Focus has us with the 2nd highest grade, and ESPN says that we have the 4th highest win rate. So our offensive line is undeniably top 5 in the NFL right now. Even with all of the injuries, Brandon Sheriff missing a few weeks, Samuel Cosme still not back. Now we have Chase Roulier, our franchise center, out for the rest of the season. I mean, we're just having to plug in holes left and right, and our offensive line is still going out there and giving us top 5 production. That is crazy. Also, very random, but Pro Football Focus has also been keeping track of a lot of the potential QB prospects that Washington may want to draft in this upcoming 2022 draft. Out of Matt Corral, Sam Howell, Kenny Pickett, Malik Willis, Desmond Ridder, and Carson Strong, Kenny Pickett has the highest overall grade with a 93.3. Malik Willis is right behind him with a 91.8. Malik Willis has the highest big-time throw percentage, but he also has the highest turnover-worthy play percentage. As everybody already knows, he's the biggest boom or bust prospect out of all of these quarterbacks, and it's not even really close. If he becomes as great as he can possibly be, he will be the best QB in this class. It's just the risk of whether or not he'll reach that. And we're not even just talking about his legs. This is all ignoring legs. We're just talking about his arm. With his arm alone, he is arguably the most talented quarterback in this class, and then you add his legs to it. It's crazy. But again, he has the highest big-time throw percentage. I mean, he's out here throwing it deep down the field in the tight windows. That's why I don't like the Lamar Jackson comparisons, because Malik Willis is already a better thrower than Lamar Jackson ever was coming out of college. Now, Lamar Jackson's gotten better in his few years of being in the NFL, but Malik Willis hasn't touched the NFL yet, so that's not really fair. But coming out of college, Malik Willis is by far a better passer than Lamar Jackson. But at the same time, he has the highest turnover-worthy play percentage. And then when you look at adjusted completion percentage, Kenny Pickett has the highest one, Carson Strong is 2nd, and Matt Corral is 3rd. Because they want to account for drops, they want to account for throwaways, because incompletions are kind of a surface stat. You got to dive deeper again to look at when receivers are dropping easy passes right into their hands, and you know, when the quarterback is just throwing the ball away and being smart. So again, Kenny Pickett has the highest adjusted completion percentage, Carson Strong has the 2nd, and Matt Corral has the 3rd. Sam Howell has the lowest. And I like Sam Howell too. I like all of these quarterbacks. Matt Corral, Sam Howell, Kenny Pickett, Malik Willis, Desmond Ridder, Carson Strong. I like them all to varying degrees. I definitely have an order to them, but I like them all. Also, before week 10, Detroit had never won a coin toss this NFL season. The only team that hasn't and every other team has won it at least twice. And I mean, I know that's really random, but it's just like, I mean, how bad can you be? The one game you get a chance to win, you tie, and then you haven't won a coin toss all season. They may have won it this past week, but I don't know. If they didn't, they're 0-9 in coin tosses, which is crazy. I mean, it's so bad that somebody even edited them losing in the bye week, 27-24. I mean, it's bad out here. Also, and this is the last random stat, Cam Newton, and I'm just throwing this up there, first of all, Westlake, great, Southwest Atlanta, all of that, but he's potentially going to start against us this week, and I will update y'all on whether or not he will officially. I'm gonna do a whole video on that with his revenge game against Ron Rivera and all of that. But Cam Newton is the only all-time leader in pass touchdowns and rushing touchdowns for a current NFL franchise. He is also 959 passing yards, 194 rushing yards away from becoming the first player in NFL history with 30,000 passing yards and 5,000 rushing yards for a single team. That is crazy. With him taking all of that time off, he spent some time for the Patriots, hasn't had a job in a minute. That is crazy that he is chasing these historical stats that may never be broken. So shouts out my boy Cam Newton, man. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please like this video if you liked it. If you learned anything, definitely get in the comment section and let me know how you feel about a lot of these stats, especially Jonathan Allen and Terry McLaurin and this offensive line. And of course, man, I appreciate all of the support, man. Shouts out to everybody that donated to the stream Sunday, the during the game live stream and post game live stream. Really appreciate y'all. Shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors whose names you see scrolling on the screen right now, man. I really appreciate y'all. I'll catch y'all later. I'm out.